Now to a breaking news update. Portland police are investigating a shooting on Northeast Grand near Holiday Street. The call came in around 3:30 this morning. There's no word on victims or suspects. We've reached out to get more information from Portland police, so we will let you know when we learn more here on the air, and we'll post it at KOIN.com.
Beaverton police say an officer was involved in a shooting near the corner of Southwest 14th and Alger. Yesterday, officers say they were running after a suspect when that shooting happened. The person was wanted for a home burglary earlier in the day. They say the suspect also had an outstanding warrant for parole violation. Officers chased the suspect, who went into backyards in the neighborhood. That's when they say the person shot themselves right around the same time the officer opened fire. Beaverton police say the suspect was hurt by a self-inflicted gunshot wound. They did not say whether the officer's gunfire hit the person. The suspect now in the hospital. Their condition has not been released. Police say no officers were hurt.
A Battleground man is charged with murder after deputies say he shot and killed his neighbor over revving an engine. 50-year-old Presley Daniel Millick appeared before a Clark County judge yesterday. You can see him there. According to the probable cause affidavit obtained by the Columbia newspaper, Millick went to confront the neighbor about revving his engine, while his wife called 911 to report the noise. Millick's wife said that she heard him yelling and then heard several gunshots. She said Millick came back home holding a gun, appearing distraught. When deputies arrived, they say the victim, 39-year-old Timothy Thomas, was dead. Millick's bail is set at $1 million. He's scheduled to be arraigned in a week. So you can read more details about this case and other crimes in our area at KOIN.com.
On the road to reopening, Oregon is getting closer to reaching a 70% vaccination rate. Now, when that happens, the governor says the state's economy will fully reopen. Right now, 68.2% of adults have gotten at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. According to the Oregon Health Authority, more than 60,000 people need to get a vaccine to reach that 70% mark.
And when Oregon does hit that 70% threshold, many are wondering the state's guidelines in the workplace and what they'd look like.
Yeah, the Oregon Occupational Safety and Health Administration is responsible for regulating workplace safety. Currently, there is a permanent mask mandate for workplaces, but OSHA has said they will repeal that mask mandate at the right time. Joining us live from Oregon OSHA is Aaron Corvin. Good morning to you.
Good morning. It's good to be with you.
Yeah, good to see you. So I think a lot of people, a lot of employees here at KOIN included, thought, okay, we're vaccinated, double vaccinated. We can show proof of our vaccine, just like they're saying when customers go to businesses, and we won't have to wear masks. But that's not the case with the OSHA work policy. So how did OSHA come to decide that there is still this mask mandate in place for the workers of businesses?
You know, at the time, we were really all about reducing those risks through our rules. So when we extended our rule, which began essentially as a temporary rule, it was about keeping, those expectations in place for employers. But now we're in a shift, as you mentioned earlier, with the reopening of the economy. And that shift is also prompted, quite frankly, by the effectiveness of vaccines and the rate that we're seeing. We're headed in a positive direction. And so from the Oregon OSHA perspective, and in line with the governor's announcement, we intend to remove the basic distancing and face covering requirements in our rule. We won't do that before we reach that threshold, but we do have that target there, and that's where we're moving. And it's really tied to the positive trend we see with the vaccination rate.
And Aaron, you and I have talked a lot about this as we've been, moving through all of these changes. But for folks who aren't as familiar with OSHA, can you explain to them how OSHA works? Do they follow Oregon Health Authority policy exclusively, or does it act independently, just so they can have an idea of what to expect moving forward?
You bet. So to a large extent, what Oregon OSHA is doing with its rule is reflective of Oregon Health Authority guidance. And that guidance, which we enforce in the workplace right now with respect to COVID-19. Our rule does incorporate some other provisions that we expect employers to follow. For example, ventilation requirements, making sure you're optimizing your ventilation system. We also have some other notification and training requirements in our rule. So those kind of work in tandem, but to a large extent, our rule really does reflect the Oregon Health Authority guidance, and it's really what we've been enforcing all along.
Okay, so after the state reopens, after we hit that 70% mark, can employers still mandate masks even when you guys, remove that mandate?
No, that's a great point. So it's worth noting again that once we reach that threshold, we're going to be rewriting our rule in a way that essentially removes the basic face covering and distancing measures and sees those go away. But at the same time, we are going to have some provisions in place for employers. We're still going to have some things that will stay in place, but again, those distancing and face covering requirements, we're going to be rewriting those as part of this process where we're no longer enforcing them at the same time, and that will, I should add, apply to any workplace. At the same time, however, there are exceptions. So for example, in line with federal guidance, healthcare settings, for example, that's an exemption. Airports, that's an exemption. And it's true, to your point, that employers certainly could have their own face covering and distancing measures in place. It would not preclude employers from going forward in that way if they wanted to.
Aaron Corvin, thank you so much. He's from, again, Oregon OSHA. We appreciate the information and clearing things up as we move through this vaccine rollout.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
And Clark County Public Health has been focusing really on making the vaccine more accessible to people who face barriers in Washington state. So they're trying to help Black, Indigenous, and people of color get their shots. Clark County officials tell us that communities of color continue to be vaccinated at lower rates. Recently, Clark County health officials have made efforts to get the vaccine to those hardest hit, creating mobile clinics and hosting clinics in diverse communities like Fruit Valley, while also partnering with organizations like the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. But public health officials say more needs to be done to make a difference. So if you are looking to get a COVID-19 vaccine, the Tower Mall vaccination in Vancouver site is open through June 29th. It is open Friday, Saturday, and Monday, 8:30 to 4:30. And then on Tuesdays, they're open later, 8:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. There's no appointment necessary here. There is public transit access to this location. There's also free Uber and Lyft rides still available for vaccines through July 4th. Washington State Governor Jay Inslee is having a news conference later this morning that you'll want to tune into. The state's insurance commissioner, the director of the Department of Veterans Affairs, and the Department of Health will be joining him. They'll discuss the state's ongoing response to the pandemic. That will start at 10:30 this morning. You can stream Governor Inslee's press conference live at KOIN.com or on our KOIN 6 News app.
Well, visitors typically bring in $4 billion to the Portland region and support more than 30,000 jobs. But the pandemic and protests have taken a devastating toll on the visitor industry. In recent years, Portland's downtown hotel market was the hottest in the country. New high-end hotels were popping up all over town. And then suddenly the pandemic hit and everything was vacant. 22 Portland hotels temporarily closed, leaving thousands of people out of work. But even as our region recovers, downtown hotel owners tell us they are still seeing dismal occupancy rates.
I've had guests that love coming to Portland and they say, what happened to your city? What has happened? And it's those letters that really, I think, share the sentiment that's a little frightening.
So we've been asking the question, is Portland over? Wayne Haverly takes an in-depth look at Portland's struggling tourism industry and the efforts to heal downtown's bruised reputation. You can catch that tonight at 5 o'clock on our sister station, KOIN 6.
President Biden is now back in the United States after an 8-day European trip.
Ken Boddy recapping what happened on the final day of that trip. Ken?
Well, after spending most of it rekindling relationships with America's allies, President Biden met with Russian President Vladimir Putin as compared to 113, 78 degrees. Sounds cool, but that's still pretty warm when you're talking about, just being inside your home. So
yeah, Palm Springs, man. My parents lived in that area half the year, and they left early this year to go back up north. They were like, we can't take it. It's just too hot. So,
well,
yeah.
We were talking yesterday about the hottest that you've ever been in. For me, it was 107 117 degrees
Ooh.
in Scottsdale, Arizona one year.
Yeah, I think mine was 118 in Palm Springs.
In Palm
growing
Springs.
Up.
Yeah, I think the Tri-Cities, the
trying to
desert
remember.
Southwest, like
Yeah.
112,
Is that
113 range. One of the summers back in like 2017. So
Too hot.
That's too hot.
Yeah, it's too hot.
Yeah.
Anything over 100, too hot.
Yeah.
I think anything over like 89 these
Kelly's
days.
more like anything over 75.
Yeah,
She's
right.
like
anything
sweating.
over, I can't do it.
Yeah, I feel you. All right,
Right.
thanks, Ken.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's not going to be your type of weather then.
No, I know some folks may like this bump in temperatures that we'll see the next coming days. So the next several days, it'll feel like summer. We have a little bit of heat, some toasty temperatures through the afternoon. It's by Father's Day on Sunday, though, we really dated on all of these.
A Ground Control Arcade in Old Town Chinatown is back open for the first time in more than a year.
Yeah, this is a really popular arcade. They had to shut down last March because of the pandemic, of course. But this morning, we have great news. Cor Harlan joins us live with their big reopening plans. Cor?
Right, well, Elise and Jenny, for folks who like video games, again, between 5th and 6th and Northwest Cooch here, Ground Control reopens a little bit and get back to your Pac-Man, your classic pinball machine games from the 70s and 80s and all the rest of that. It's attracted quite a following over the years, and they can go back there now and begin to play the games.
You named my two favorite games, Pac-Man and pinball.
Yeah.
So much
It's not
fun.
good at pinball.
Me too.
I'm really good at it.
Are you?
Yeah, I mean,
Pac-Man.
Elise
Not
is
to toot
kind
my
of
own horn
competitive.
here, but-
Yes. What's up, Cor?
No, I just say Pac-Man is my go-to game. You can sit down there all night long and drink beer and
Yeah.
play Pac-Man for hours. I
Yeah.
did that. I've done that. Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay, thank you, Cor. Hey, still ahead, we have a new warning for businesses this morning.
economists say that they're in for the great resignation. What could be behind the cause of workers quitting their jobs?
And in the words of Lady Gaga, don't be a drag, just be a queen. The Portland Pride Parade is back with a twist. We'll have a preview for you in this week's Positive Vibes.
Left you outcast, but leader teased. Rejoice and love yourself today.